Good morning, my friends. Good morning, community here in the room. Good morning, everybody watching from home. Let's begin, as always, by taking 3 deep breaths together. So first, exhale, and then let's together take a deep breath in. And let go. Another deep breath in. And let go. One more deep breath in. And let go. So I want to begin by bringing our attention back to the beginning of this year. Remember January? I think that was some time ago in many of our experiences. But as we began our conversation into 2020, I remember bringing up this idea, and we've been holding this sort of metaphor throughout many of our communities of the 2020 vision. That this year, 2020, is about seeing things for as they are, about seeing the truth of things, about gaining the clarity and the insight that we need in order to truly move forward and evolve towards a greater world, towards a greater life, towards a greater sense of community. And what an interesting and clarifying year this has been so far. I feel that many of us have begun to see things in a different light. Many of our lenses, much of the things that we're focusing on, much of what we've been looking at has definitely changed. And they often say that vision is 2020 in hindsight, right? So here we are rolling towards the end of our 2020, our year of clear vision, and now we want to start sort of looking back at 2020 with 2020. Oh my goodness, there's a lot that we can look at. There's a lot that we can be exploring when we begin to look back with context at everything that's unfolded over the last year. I also have a belief that on some level, for better or worse, that 2020 is somewhat of a preview of the 20s. I do believe that we are moving into perhaps one of the most complicated and tumultuous moments in human history. And that it's not just this year, that this is the emerging story that we are all participating in. I believe that if any of us have ever believed in sort of the idea of the dawning of the age of Aquarius, or the second coming of Christ, or the Great Awakening, or whatever you want to call it, I think we're in the great turning right now. That we are watching all of our stories change. We are watching all that we have known be disrupted and rearranged and put forth in front of us in a new way. And that new arrangement, that new image, that new dream, that new world is beginning to show up in front of us. And I believe that in order for us to get there, each one of us needs to begin to really examine, begin to look at ourselves. I think much of this year has been a great societal invitation to begin to look at our beliefs, to begin to look at our values, to begin to look at what is truly important to each one of us, what is important to us as a community, what is important to us as a collective, what is important to us as a planet. And one of the things that keeps coming up is that in order for us to build a world that works for everyone, it's gonna take everyone. And we're living in this moment that seems to be a moment of great division, of great separation in our American society and all over the world. There's upheaval taking place. And I believe that upheaval, that separation is really the stirring, the moving, the rearranging, the shifting that it takes for us to actually begin to see and think and hear a little bit differently. And again, for each one of us to look back at ourselves, see the great collective as our reflection, pointing each one of us back to us, the universe inviting us to look within and say, what is my piece of this? What is my offering? What is my piece of the puzzle? What is my gift? What is the shift that I have to make inside in order to see a new reflection outside? And that this year has been an invitation for all of us to look at what is truly important. And then as we find those values, those important pieces, those things that are precious to each one of us, that we begin to commit to those. Whether that's a way of being, whether that's an action, whether that's a belief, whether that's a cause in the world, whether that's a project that we want to engage in, we each must begin to dedicate, to become truly steadfast in our practice, in our awareness, in our willingness to participate in building a world that works, in building a society that works, in building communities that work, and for each one of us, finding a way to build a life that works. And that question, that steadfastness, that commitment is what it's going to take from each one of us in order to actually step into the next world. And we are living in a moment where we can no longer sit back and stand by and wait for someone else to be the change. That if we've learned anything this year, we must do it. But I don't think any one of us can do it alone. Even though we must do it individually, we can't do it alone. We have to do it in partnership. We have to do it in circle. We have to do it in community. And one of the things that I have to say that I'm personally grateful for is the steadfast nature that this community has expressed over the last year. There were 31 Sundays that we weren't able to meet in this room, and yet we never missed a Sunday. We had some glitchy Sundays. We learned, but we rose to the occasion. And that our community, you who is listening right now, this membership, this congregation, has continuously shown up, tuned in to us on Facebook or YouTube or wherever you can find us as we continuously shift and move with the changing times. You've continued to keep up your steadfast support and keep this community alive even though you weren't able to come here. That this community, even though we've been sort of dispersed over the last year, has remained as a solid entity. That the relationships are still there, that the communication is still happening, that we're still moving forward. And we're moving with the times, we're changing, we're shifting, we're evolving. Who and what we are is beginning to look different, but our message, our ability to reach out into the world has grown. CSL Santa Cruz has stepped up to a new platform that we're now fully online and now we're in person. That the steadfast nature of this community has allowed us to continue to stay alive through a very tumultuous time. And I believe that this community is what each one of us need to support us in that continuous questioning of finding our own vision, finding our own purpose, finding our own work. Because as we heard in the song before, you know what you need to do. You know the answer to your question. You know the way. And when each one of us seek the answer to our own question, when each one of us begin to walk the path of our own way, and then we do it together in community, when we come together as a collective mind and focus on the same thing at the same time every week, we're building a sense of connection that goes beyond this place. And now it truly is beyond this place. We bring CSL Santa Cruz to this building, but we now also bring it into our homes. We share it with our friends and family. We post it on Facebook. We're expanding who we are. And I really want to call all of us individually and as a community to begin to contemplate that steadfast nature of our dedication, of our purpose, of our spiritual nature, of our individual work, of our work in the world, and begin to look into the future. Begin to look beyond this community. Begin to look beyond our individual lifetimes, perhaps. Begin to look beyond the next decade. and start to say, what is the great vision that we want to step into? What is the thing that we can commit to? What is the thing that we can each individually and collectively say yes to and throw our energy towards so that we be the place where the example of a world that works begins to emerge? So that each one of our lives, so that the nature of this community, so that what we are doing in the world begins to show that we are tapped into a vision greater than ourselves. I'm currently reading the book at Kaylee's suggestion, Good to Great. And in that, there's this idea of the BHAG, or the big, hairy, audacious goal, which I just think is a hilarious and wonderful term. But a great big goal that goes beyond you, goes beyond your organization. That is a guiding point that says, you know what, this is our 30-year goal, our 40-year goal, our 50-year goal. CSL has that. We say our vision is of a world that works for everyone. That seems like a multi-generational goal, if you ask me. That's a BHAG. And we are continuously moving towards a big idea as a community, as individuals. Each one of us has a passion. Those overlapping passions can be the energy that we share and cultivate together. In the book Reinventing Organizations, Frederick Laloux talks about the idea of having an evolutionary purpose. Of having a purpose that goes beyond yourself, beyond your lifetime, that meets a need in the world that is about expanding consciousness, about expanding the way of doing something, of thinking in a certain way. That what you do is in service to an idea greater than yourself. And I believe and I hope and I beg each one of us to look with 2020 hindsight back at the year of 2020. And begin to ask into that perspective, begin to ask into all that is unfolded, what is being called forth from us? What are we being asked to do? What are we being asked to stand so firmly in that we are willing to pour all of our life's energy into it? I'm 37 years old, and I look at the world, and my BHAG right now is to live to be 80. To have a world that I can live in. To have a society that supports me to do that. And that is going to require me and everyone in my generation's full attention if we even want to have a world for our grandchildren. And that's going to take some deep dedication and powerful, steadfast attention for an entire generation to rally around to say life is our BHAG. Survival is our BHAG. Not only for ourselves, but for all people and for all life on this planet. And beyond that, a dream or a vision of what it would look like to actually be thriving, to be healthy, as individuals, as a society, and as a planet. And that's going to take every single person claiming their piece of the puzzle. And it is my personal belief that 2020 has offered each one of us something. That something in the last year has been triggered in you, has been inspired in you, has been disrupted or moved. Wherever the energy has found itself in your life, that's the place to look. Whether it's hit you with passion or whether it's hit you with pain, begin to explore that thing. And as you explore that thing, as you begin to dedicate yourself to it and put your steadfast attention into it and bring those intentions into your thoughts and prayers as you engage in this community and hear the inspiration and the ideas that come from this pulpit week by week and point back to that one thing, continue to explore that one thing, your piece of the puzzle will emerge. Your inner work, your outer work, your passion, your process. Let's use all of the circumstances of the world of effect as a mirror to point back to us where to look, and then look with a focused attention, with 2020 hindsight, with deep, clear vision, and begin to ask your question. And only you can find the answer to your question. But you also know the way. The way is being drawn forth from you. It's being pulled from you. I truly believe that each one of us has a presence that goes before us. As Ernest Holmes would say, there is a presence that goes before you that makes the path easy and clear, that paves the way, that opens the doors. Gene Houston calls that presence the entelechy, which means potential and forward movement in motion towards an outcome. I believe that there's a presence in front of each one of us that says, come be me, come be me. It's the lure of your becoming. And that one who is saying, come be me, is pulling on you all the time, is pulling on me all the time. And it does so with that negative voice that criticizes us when we're not doing the right thing. It does so with our dreams and our passions. It does so with our triggers and disappointments. It does so in every way possible, saying, come be me, come be me, come be me. What does the last year begin to draw out from you? What is pulling on your heart and soul that you can dedicate to and begin to be participating in your own shift and in the collective shift? Because we are in a time of great transition, and it's up to us to participate in it. Because the wheel is turning whether we like it or not. And we can either push it or get run over by it. And the more we push it, the faster it moves. The more we participate in it, the more we engage its power. We are in a great turning. You can see it everywhere. Everything has changed. So let's participate in the change. Let's be steadfast in our willingness to see the change as an opportunity, to see the chaos as an invitation to look within ourselves, and to let the disruption be that which calls us forward. And recognize that we are so much stronger in community than we are individually. And let this community be the container for that question. Let our spiritual community be the place that we come back to, that we tap into, that we remind ourselves is a place that we can share what we're working on, that we can reach out to someone and be the bridges that start to connect and conversate and ask those deep questions and contemplate and pray together so that we can emerge towards our greatest yet to be. Because I do believe that there is always something greater that is seeking to emerge through each one of us. And I believe that beyond that individual presence that goes before us, that there is a collective presence that goes before us, that there is a planetary presence that goes before us, and that collectively there is a voice calling us forward saying, come be me, come be me. And that if we dedicate to listening to that voice and remain steadfast in our spiritual practice to continuously hone our attention so that we can see towards the highest possibility and use all of the circumstance that is around us as the lens to ask the question. I really believe that the more that each one of us engages in courting an unanswerable question, that the mystery will reveal itself. And that question can simply be, what is my purpose? Or how is this God? Or what is calling me? These are questions that we can contemplate, that we can ask into every circumstance, into everything that comes at us from the world. When we see the chaos and distortion, we can ask, what is this calling from me? What purpose is this evoking from me? Who is it that I am to be because of this? And so let's begin to look back. Look back at 2020 with 2020 clarity, with 2020 hindsight, and begin to ask the question. And only you can find the answer to your question. But you do know the way, because the way is paved before you by one who is beckoning you forward, saying, come be me. And let that be our call into the next year, that we in CSL Santa Cruz be a community of people who are following that lure of becoming together and continuing to cycle around an idea of moving towards a world that works for everyone, building a Santa Cruz that works, building a spiritual community that works, and maintaining individual lives that work. And so, if you will, take a deep breath in and let go. As we together stand in the awareness that there is indeed only one life, that life is infinite, that life is continuous, that it is love, that it is always evolving, always expanding, always seeking itself and always becoming more of itself, always changing and yet always the same. Let each one of us recognize that this infinite, seamless presence that lives and breathes throughout the entirety of the universe is living and breathing each one of us, beating our hearts, looking out through our eyes, speaking and hearing and acting and choosing as us in every moment. So let each one of us be a place where we do it consciously, where we recognize that presence is evolving in us, is unfolding as us, is choosing through us. And so let us be the place where steadfast intention, curiosity, inquisitiveness, contemplation happen. Let each one of us be a place where something deep is continuously bubbling up through the mind of possibility. And let us cycle together around each other, knowing that together there is so much more gravity, there is so much more potential, there is so much more possibility when we work as community and do our individual work together. And so let us claim, know, and declare today that each one of us is finding our piece of the puzzle, and that we begin the process of putting those pieces together and building, seeing, revealing the picture of a world that works on the other side. And so let us live in expectancy, absolutely knowing that everywhere we look, something new has the potential to emerge. And let us live in gratitude for that process and be continuously celebrating the idea that indeed there is a power for good in this universe that is greater than we are, that is greater than all things, that moves all things, that lives and breathes in all things. And that we be a place of allowing that presence to come through us in everything we do. And so with this, I simply say, yes, I accept, and so it is. Thank you, friends.